Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Landon, and I am so glad you're here. And I'm super excited because we are starting a brand new series called Letters to Leaders. And the reason we called it that is because every single day this month, we want to send you a letter. That's right, we want to send you a letter from us. Now, we're not going to mail it to you. We're going to do it in a much cooler way. In fact, it has a lot to do with our called app. And so if you have our app, great. If you don't, go and download it. It looks like this. It says, Make Jesus Famous. You go to the App Store, search up Called Ministry. And I'm going to show you how we're going to send you a letter. It has something to do with this. You're going to get this tonight. It's a card that says Letters to Leaders, and you're going to get this. And with the Called app, you're going to go to the bottom of the screen where it says Home, Prayer Wall, Scanner, Bible, Notes. In that middle part, that scanner button with the camera, just click that. You're going to click that scanner button. It's going to open your phone's camera. You're going to allow it to access your phone's camera. And then here's what you see. You're going to just point your camera at the card that we give you. Click that little thumbprint, and it's going to start to scan the card to send you your letter. And when it scans the card, this image comes alive. You see the letter coming out of the mailbox, and you get a letter from us. Today's letter, it says, "You are a leader." 1 Timothy 4:12. Now you can go back to the Called app, and we have our Bible in this corner, and you can look up actually 1 Timothy 4:12, and it's just to encourage you so that you believe that you're a leader this month. That is our goal. Our goal is to make sure that you believe that you are a leader. And if you already know that you're a leader, our goal is to really help you become and achieve the leader that God is calling you to be. And so just like today's letter said, it said that you are a leader. Turn to someone and tell them, you are a leader. Yes, you are a leader. Now, I know for 100% that there is someone out there right now that doesn't believe they're a leader. You're probably sitting there thinking, well, how can I be a leader? You don't know me. I'm not a leader. And I'm right there with you. I thought that about myself growing up. Because growing up, I thought that leaders had to have titles, right? Like if I played soccer, and so my soccer team, I thought that the coach was a leader because he had the title of coach. Maybe you play a sport and you have a team captain, and you think that they're the leader because they have the title captain. Maybe you go to church and you're at church and you think that the only leader in church is the person that has the title pastor. And we associate leadership with titles. And although those people are leaders, they are not the only leaders. In fact, the foundation of this series and the main point for tonight is simply this: leadership isn't a position, it's a posture. I'm going to say that again. Leadership isn't a position, it is a posture. Now, what does that mean? It means that you don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need to be team captain to be a leader, or a pastor, or a teacher, or a coach. You don't need to have a title to be a leader, because leadership isn't a position. It doesn't mean that you have a title. Leadership is a posture. Now, that word posture brings back memories, because my mom would always say, "Landon, you have bad posture." I would slouch. She would always say, "Fix your posture." What does that mean? She's saying that fix how you hold yourself. And that's what leadership is. In the same way about our bodily posture, how we hold ourselves, how we stand, leadership has everything to do with how we hold ourselves, how we live our lives, how we think. It's how we structure our life. That is leadership. And so when I tell you that you are a leader, you best believe that I believe you are a leader. Because we all can hold ourselves and change our lives to be leaders. And that's what we're going to break down tonight through our GWAM. We're going to break down what is the posture or the structure that we need to have in our lives to be the leader that God has called us to be. Jesus was a great leader. Leadership is all throughout Christianity, and that is why we are called to be leaders. And so this is our visual representation of leadership tonight. See, in your GWAM, you had to make a pyramid with cups using this contraption, right? It's a rubber band with a couple strings. When you pull it, the rubber band gets bigger. You can carry cups, and you had to use teamwork to make this pyramid. Now, there's some key things, just basic principles of building the pyramid. If the bottom base was too far apart, right, the pyramid falls apart. And so this is going to be how we structure our pyramid, how we structure our leadership. It's from the bottom up. And here's the first thing that we need to build our lives on in order to become the leaders that God is calling us to be. And that is simply by building our lives on Jesus. Someone say, Jesus! We need to build our lives on Jesus. That is our foundation of leadership, but that is just our foundation of our life. That we need to have a life built on Jesus. We're going to read a scripture here about the disciples. They were in a boat with Jesus himself, and a storm comes. A storm comes and waves are splashing, and you just need to see what happens in this interaction between the disciples who are with Jesus. Check this out in Matthew chapter 8. It says this. It says that suddenly a fierce storm struck the lake with waves breaking into the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up, shouting, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." Jesus responded, "Why are you afraid? You have so little faith." Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and suddenly there was a great calm. See, Jesus, he was there with the disciples. And the disciples were still scared because they thought that Jesus was sleeping, so that means that he is powerless. And Jesus got up and he said, "Well, why do you have so little faith?" Because Jesus knew whether he was sleeping or awake, he still had that power in him. And the disciples should have had a life built on Jesus so much that whether they knew if he was awake or sleeping, they still had peace simply because he was with them. We need to have a faith that is built on Jesus so much that when storms come, we don't waver. We don't break apart. Our foundation is solid. This is the foundation that we can build on. As leaders, we need to have a foundation of Jesus. The second thing, in order to continue to build, we have our foundation, and now this is what we're building with, is we need to build with love. Someone say love. We need to build with love. We have a foundation of Jesus, but we need to build with love. This is what it says in Matthew chapter 22, verse 36. It says this, it says, "Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" They're talking to Jesus. Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments." Jesus replied that you need to love God. You need to have that foundation set. And then you need to love people like how you love yourself. What we need to build with as leaders is we need to build with love. Everything we need to do needs to be surrounded by love. I know it's hard to love people sometimes, but we need to show them God's love. We got to build with love. And I'm going to say this because I think someone needs to hear it tonight. Maybe you think it's easy to love God. Maybe you think it's easy to love people. But maybe you find it hard to love yourself. God is calling you to love yourself also. Everything that we do as leaders needs to be built with love. It starts with loving God. It continues to loving people, loving others, loving ourselves, even loving our enemies. We need to build with love. And the last thing that completes leadership for a Christian life is this. People. Someone say people. People are the point. This is what completes leadership for a Christian. Jesus did life with people. He did ministry with people. You need to do and live your life alongside people who's going to support you and build you up. This is the structure of Christian leaders. People who build their lives on Jesus, people who live through love, and people who do life with each other. Now, I want to show you, and I'm going to end here. I want to show you what it's like when we build our lives differently. See, a lot of us, even Christians, sometimes we think that this is the right way to build our lives. Instead of building our lives on Jesus, we build and start our lives with people. We start building our lives with people. We use people as our foundation. We think that we need to build a good team. We need to have a good big group of friends in order to be a good leader. That this is our foundation, that people is our foundation. Most of us get this point. We know that we need to love. We know that love should be in there somewhere. And so most of us have love in our lives. And we think that we're doing a great job when we just add Jesus on the top. We think that, well, because Jesus is our top, he goes down into everything, and that's great. And this will work for a little while. But what happens when people fail you? What happens when people move away? What happens when you get hurt by people? Well, I'll show you what happens. When people move away, when they hurt you, when they start to crumble your foundation, everything falls apart. See, this is why we need our foundation as Jesus. He's not going to fail you. He's always going to be with you. He's going to be never changing. He is that firm foundation that we need to continue to build with love, and we need to add people to the whole process. And I want to encourage you with this. In order for you to build this structure, like the GWAM, your life is going to look a little bit like this. It's not going to look this crazy. It might get messy, but this is what I mean. Your life is going to look like this. In order for you to build this pyramid, you had to pull this rubber band, you had to release the rubber band, you had to stretch. Someone say stretch. This structure is going to put a lot of us out of our comfort zone. This structure is going to stretch a lot of us. It's going to challenge you, but it is going to change you for the better. We need to have Jesus as our foundation, love in the process, and add people to the whole structure. We're going to end tonight a little bit different. We're going to end tonight with a little prayer time. And in order for us to start this structure, it's really simple. It's by praying a simple prayer that sounds something like this. It's just saying, Jesus, please ignite the leader in me. You have a leader in you. And by praying, Jesus, please ignite the leader in me, I'm believing that God's going to start to change your life, the posture of your life, to reflect this structure. So right now, I'm going to ask the called leaders just to kind of line up at the front. And wherever you are, I want you just to kind of close your eyes and just be in prayer. Maybe pray that prayer to yourself, that Jesus, please ignite the leader in me. And if you do need prayer, I want you to come up to the front and just find one of the called leaders, tell them what you're going through, what you need prayer for, and they're going to love to pray for you, because we're believing and we know that you are a leader.